Volkswagen Caravelle is a large people carrier. In fact, large is underselling it a bit, because the Caravelle is based on the VW Transporter medium van, meaning that in MPV terms it not only has enough room for up to 7 adults inside, it also has space for plenty of luggage. These kinds of vehicles are often popular with taxi firms and hotels for this reason, though with a vast options list and such a cleverly thought out interior, the Caravelle also makes for a very practical family car, while the quality of finish inside is ideal for executive transport where space is of paramount concern. You can even arrange the rear seats in a face-to-face, lounge-style configuration and hold a meeting on the move. The degree of thought and level of quality make the Caravelle the car to beat in this class, ahead of more workaday rivals such as the Ford Tourneo Custom, and we'd pick one over the Mercedes V-Class as well. This shouldn't come as too much of a surprise once you learn that the underlying Transporter van is now in its 6th generation. VW has been building these things for a long time and it shows in the attention to detail throughout. It's no wonder you see so many customized versions on the UK's roads, obviously the pride and joy of their owners. Engine and trim choices. The latest Caravelle, which was launched in 2015, is available with 150 horsepower and 204 horsepower petrol and diesel engines and comes in 2 wheelbases so you can balance cost against your space requirements. There's also a choice of both manual and automatic gearboxes, plus front and 4-wheel drive, depending on engine and specification level. 2 standard trim levels are offered, say and executive. A very fancy special edition called the Generation 6 was also offered for a short while, easily spotted by its 2-tone paintwork. These were aimed at enthusiasts and came with a premium price tag to match their premium appearance. Not that any version of the Caravelle is particularly cheap, mind. VW does sell a people-carrying version of the Transporter called the Shuttle if you're looking for a more budget choice. Surprisingly good to drive, interesting options given those van underpinnings. Buyers are best not to expect this Volkswagen to be quite as nice to drive as a car-based 7-seater MPV, such as the Ford Galaxy, Citroën Grand C4 Picasso or even the VW Charon and Seat Alhambra. However, with that proviso, you may be pleasantly surprised at just how easy these big vehicles are to handle. The high driving position delivers great visibility, the engines are powerful, and you can even add 3-stage adaptive suspension as an option. As you'd expect, all the latest VW infotainment systems are available in the Caravelle, while other interesting options include a good night package, window blinds, bed covering, shelves, mini flashlight and waste bin, a 32-liter cooling, warming box, and a selection of auxiliary heating systems. It is a highly versatile machine. Click the driving tab above to keep reading the full review of the VW Caravelle. 2 petrol, 2 diesel engines, 150 horsepower or 204 horsepower power outputs, choice of auto and 4WD. 2 VW has done its best to make the engine choice simple in the Caravelle, regardless of whether you want petrol or diesel. All of the engines are 2.0-liter, 4-cylinder motors and there is a choice of just the 2 power outputs, 150 horsepower and 204 horsepower. Of course, it isn't quite that simple in reality. The petrol engines are cheaper, but less fuel efficient, and only available as short wheelbase same models, plus the 150 horsepower engine gets a manual gearbox while the 204 horsepower engine is automatic only. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes 12.5 seconds for the former, 9.9 seconds for the latter. Powerful diesel engines as well as better fuel economy. The diesels also have more torque, which means they can move heavier loads with less effort. The 150 horsepower diesel has 340 Nm versus 280 Nm for the equivalent petrol, while the 204 horsepower diesel has a considerable 450 Nm versus 350 Nm for the petrol. It's also the only model to get 2 turbochargers for improved response. It moves with truly surprising vigor for a vehicle of such size. The more childish will find the looks on other drivers' faces at traffic lights very amusing. On paper, 0 to 62 miles per hour takes 12.9 seconds in the 150 horsepower diesel and 9.8 seconds in the 204 horsepower diesel, regardless of wheelbase length. The automatic versions of each are 0.1 seconds slower. The 204 horsepower diesel is also available with 4-motion 4-wheel drive, which is slightly slower still. If you are expecting to spend a lot of time on slippery surfaces, such as grass and snow, 4-motion may be worthwhile, but for most drivers the standard front-wheel drive should suffice, as it's backed up by a full set of electronic stability control systems. Convincing automatic. We're yet to try the latest Caravelle with the manual gearbox, but the high position of the lever in the dashboard suggests it will be easy enough to get on with. The 7-speed automatic is smooth, if occasionally a little reluctant to get going when pulling away gently. There is a sport setting for more committed driving, but you don't get paddle shifters. It's really not that kind of machine. Not as bad in the corners as you might expect. 3-stage adaptive suspension option. Good visibility, but a big thing to park. No one buys a van-based MPV expecting it to drive like a moderately capable hatchback, let alone a sports car. But within the constraints of its tall, bulky body, the Caravelle acquits itself rather well. While you'll never escape the sensation of height, it has quite a squat, stable feel to the way it approaches corners, and it tucks into roundabouts in a manner that makes it seem almost deft. Clearly some care has been taken at Volkswagen over delivering a reasonably satisfying steer, perhaps in the knowledge that these vehicles will be used for extended journeys, often whipping passengers up and down the motorway, or off on an adventurous family holiday. For example, the tested Servotronic speed-dependent power steering is weighty enough to make it easy to gauge the Caravelle's responses, yet light when needed for close-quarters maneuvering around town. Similarly, though it certainly leans more through the turns than a regular car, the body roll is well controlled once you get used to it and proves little cause for alarm. Suspension upgrades. Available executive specification models come with dynamic suspension as standard, which is 20 mm lower for greater composure. Still, this is optional on this A. Those looking for even more from their Caravelle can add dynamic chassis control, DCC, a 3-stage adaptive damping system with comfort, normal and sport settings. Sport does an impressive job of reducing the roll even further. Those who place the driving experience high up on their list of buying priorities should also consider the Ford Tourneo Custom. This too has a surprisingly engaging handling setup for a vehicle of this type. Good range of adjustment, loads of storage space. You won't feel shortchanged. The Caravelle is largely a comfortable vehicle to drive as well. There's a good range of adjustment in the steering and seating positions, and you sit very high so get a great view of the road ahead. However, it is something of a bus-like driving position, meaning that the steering wheel is generally more horizontal than in a conventional car. We didn't find it difficult to get used to this, though. Quality of materials is up to the usual high Volkswagen standard, and again better than the equivalent transporter van. Instrumentation is also very clear, with easy-to-read analog dials, and buttons on both the steering wheel and the dashboard that are clearly labeled and easy to understand. All the latest VW infotainment. The Caravelle can be equipped with all the latest VW infotainment, too, meaning that alongside the easy-to-use touchscreen sat-nav options, available with traffic alerts and dynamic routing to avoid the worst jams, it also offers a significant amount of smartphone integration. VW has its own suite of apps that go with this, designed to offer additional entertainment and improve your driving. In other words, you are unlikely to feel shortchanged compared with buyers of regular VW cars. Given the amount of useful storage dotted through the cabin, and particularly in the immediate vicinity of the driver, you might even come to feel rather smug about your big van. Ride not as comfortable as a car. Adaptive suspension best in sports and wind, road and engine noise. While it is most certainly quieter than the equivalent van, the Caravelle is not on a par with the hushed experience you get inside many modern cars. Engines are loud when accelerating, and there's more wind and road noise than you get in some more conventional people carriers. But the seats are comfortable front and rear, the floor is flat throughout so no one has to put up with straddling a transmission tunnel, and there's good visibility for every passenger. Firm ride. Owing to the need to combat body roll in corners, the suspension is on the stiff side, and the Caravelle tends to batter its way over lumpy surfaces rather than smooth them out. It's far from unbearable, however, and the trade-off is well worth the stability the firm suspension brings at speed. DCC most comfortable in sport. As for the optional dynamic chassis control, we actually found this most comfortable in the sport setting. For although sport becomes a touch busy over rougher roads, thumping into bigger bumps and potholes, it remains stubbornly tolerable, and decidedly preferable to the slightly floaty comfort setting, which never really feels totally settled, to the extent that it becomes tiresome over longer journeys. The Caravelle comes in 2 standard trim levels, SAE and Executive. Major items of standard equipment on the SAE are as follows: 5.0-inch touchscreen infotainment system with DAB+ digital radio, Bluetooth, 2 USB connections, glove box or storage shelf, OIN, CD player, and SD card slot. Climatic semi-automatic climate control with second heater in the rear passenger compartment. Driver and front passenger seats with twin armrests, height adjustment and lumbar support. Illuminated interior entry steps, reading lights. Front and rear multifunction table. Sliding rail system for rear seats. 6 load securing points in passenger and luggage compartment. Sun blinds for the rear side windows. Swiveling center row seats. Heat reflective glass. Twin sliding rear doors with power latching mechanism, so you don't have to slam them shut. Alloy wheels. 12V socket upgrade to executive, and the following items are chief among what's added: Climatronic 3-zone climate control for driver, front passenger and rear compartment, upgraded instrument cluster with color trip computer display, heated front seats, leather and Alcantara upholstery, folding center armrest in rear bench seat, speed dependent power steering, cruise control, automatic headlights and windscreen wipers, electrically operated sliding side doors, power latching tailgate, heated windscreen and heated washer jets, extra chrome and stainless steel detailing. You'll note that satellite navigation is not standard on either model. Desirable limited edition Caravelle Generation 6. Navigation is standard on the limited edition Caravelle Generation 6 that helped launch the new range. However, this is based on the executive specification, but adds a number of premium items. Beyond the sat-nav, the most obvious additions are the two-tone cherry red and candy white paint job, the only paint option in the UK, larger retro-style alloy wheels and the full LED headlights, all set off by a chrome grille surround and heavily tinted rear windows. Less obvious on the Generation 6 are the standard fit adaptive cruise control, electric heated and folding exterior mirrors, dynamic chassis control, blind spot monitors, front and rear parking sensors, and App Connect smartphone integration, all of which are desirable options on regular versions of the Caravelle. The colorful interior accents are not. The Generation 6 was only sold as a diesel automatic, with prices starting well over £50,000. A lot of money for a fancy van, but it feels well worth the admittedly indulgent expense. Caravelle optional extras. In addition to the above, VW offers a wide range of options for the Caravelle. For example, if you're not convinced that parking sensors will be enough, we'd consider them essential, then upgrade to a reversing camera. Want a sliding window in one or other of the rear doors? Done. Need a 32-liter box that can keep its contents hot or cold? No problem. A choice of tow hooks with trailer assist. They're yours, as long as you're prepared to pay for them. No Euro NCAP score yet. Limited range of active safety options. Not the Caravelle's strongest area. The design of the Caravelle has inherent pluses and minuses for safety. On the plus side, the height you sit at means you can see a long way down the road, which should theoretically give you additional time to react to any hazards. On the minus side, its size limits dynamic agility for undertaking emergency changes of direction. Compensating somewhat for the latter is the standard electronic stability control, and there are 6 airbags should the worst happen. Euro NCAP is yet to test the Caravelle, but under the skin it is fundamentally similar to the previous model, which scored 4 out of 5 when it was crash tested, though the procedure has been upgraded since then. You can fit 4 child seats using ISOFIX mountings inside this VW. Autonomous emergency braking only optional. Only a limited number of active safety items are available for the Caravelle, namely autonomous emergency braking, with and without adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitors and automatic high beam headlights, but you have to pay extra for all of them on the regular say and executive models. A driver alert system, which watches for signs of fatigue at the helm, is fitted as standard, however. And as already discussed, there are plenty of cup holders so you won't be short of coffee. Seats 7 adults in plenty of space. Highly versatile interior, long wheelbase, best for luggage space. And here we come to the major reason for choosing a van-based MPV, the sheer level of practicality. In the Caravelle's case you get seats for 7 adults as standard, configured in a 2-2-3 layout, with both the front and middle rows seated in individual chairs, and a large bench seat for the rear. You can choose to buy your Caravelle with fewer seats if you don't need that many, but both rear rows not only slide on the included rail system, they can be removed altogether, should you suddenly find yourself with a wardrobe to shift. A lounge on wheels. The middle 2 chairs also swivel as standard, enabling you to create a lounge-style space with a face-to-face seating arrangement. With the included folding table, also mounted on the rails, this also allows you to hold business meetings, or family games of Monopoly, on the move, if you wish. The Caravelle's rear cabin is a versatile space. There's even an option to convert it for sleeping, no doubt influenced by its cousin, the VW California camper van. There's plenty of head and legroom in all rows, and it's easy enough to move between them thanks to the flat floor. The tilting mechanism for the middle row of seats is slightly awkward, however, and seat removal is not a task best contemplated alone. The individual seats are bulky and heavy, let alone the three-seater rear bench. The Caravelle's height from the ground requires you to step up into it, something those of limited mobility may need to consider. There are plenty of cup holders and cubby holes throughout, including space for a 2-liter bottle in a dashboard drawer. Go along if you need to carry lots of luggage. Due to the Caravelle's van-based origins, VW does not quote an official boot volume. Suffice to say, if you maximize legroom in the short wheelbase variant, room for luggage becomes limited to a few small bags. The long wheelbase version will easily swallow everyone's suitcases, though, and thus is the best choice for airport transfers. Other interesting practicality features include a whole range of auxiliary heating systems at extra cost, allowing you to make sure your Caravelle is toasty warm for those winter school run mornings.